morning, Kelly.
I feel like you should say good morning, everyone.
Oh,
Yeah.
good morning. Also, everyone else. we're coming to our last. Okay, our today is Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
We record our last episode on Saturday, August 10th. So this is our third last episode.
Yeah.
It's like actually, it's been like a crazy 2 weeks. It doesn't feel like it's been a full 2 weeks.
It's because you were sick for like half of it. You slept through like 3 days. Yeah.
Okay, speaking of which, this morning, we woke up to like Ella found this article about how they're like a lot of the athletes are getting sick. It was
Mhm.
actually a CBC article about how like was it
The
14 Canadian athletes
Sure.
are sick with like what sounds like the exact same flu virus that we had. So like with the risk of TMI, like violent vomiting for 8 hours. And I was like, this sounds familiar. So it was like interesting. There's been a lot of athletes reporting sick, even saying like, I think the triathletes who thought they got sick from the Sen maybe didn't.
Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, like this happens like every time you put 10,000 people in a same cafeteria.
Like, but different brands of illness.
Different types of illness, but like it definitely which is why after the triathlon when they were like, oh, 2 of the triathletes got sick, you were like, literally think about every race you've ever been at. If only 2 people got sick at every race,
like that's a huge win.
Really, and now, it's turning out like one of the Belgian athletes is like, oh, it wasn't E. coli, it's a virus. So
Right.
It's not like shocking.
Right. What's more shocking to me is that like the same illness, like, because I'm not surprised I got sick with the amount that we've been on the metro and like in big crowds and around things, but I would expect there to be like multiple strains of multiple things going around, which there probably are.
Yeah.
But it's like very interesting that like this illness that won essentially in the only way that an illness can win gold is like the one that like same one that we got is the one that the athletes are also getting. Like, I think it's pretty, I don't know how you didn't get sick, Kelly, actually.
Washing your hands. It's great. Highly recommend.
If only I had
to tell you. No, the other thing that is surprising to me that like I'm not shocked people are getting sick. Of course, like it happens every kind of big games. So I was hearing about people getting sick a couple weeks ago because the news a couple days ago because the news likes these kind of stories.
Mm-hmm.
The one that was surprising to me was that like a ton of people are coming out with COVID. Again, not shocking. It's like actually spreading a lot right now, but they are still being allowed to compete and they're not. They don't have to leave the village, which I thought was kind of crazy. Like one of the British silver medalists after he won, he was like, "Oh yeah, I had COVID while I was racing," which I was like, I mean, like I get, so I understand why they're like, okay, it was brutal at like Tokyo when it was like, oh, if you tested positive, like all your everything, like all your dreams are gone, right? Like I get why that's brutal.
Yeah.
But if I was one of those swimmers like next to him and then I had like my other big race after that, I would be like, holy shit, you just like fucked me.
Like, or any illness, right?
Right.
What a difference at Tokyo in just 3 years, right? Like that's interesting.
So that's kind of crazy to me that they're like, if they're sick, they can like stay at the village and do everything. I would like athletes the other thing though is athletes in general are very, very germ phobic. Like in general, if the entire universe acted like elite athletes, like we would have a lot less illness because they're quite insane about not getting sick, which is completely understandable. I saw a lot of them wearing masks before their events, and then like less after. So in general, I would like if there was 10,000 people I wanted to be stuck in one cafeteria with, it would be elite Olympians. But
I definitely learned to like I definitely started, for example, like washing my hands way, way more when I was traveling as an athlete.
Yeah.
Like, so for example, like obviously we wash our hands at certain times, like most people, I think, but like I would just while traveling, just wash my hands like at any moment, like sometimes going into the bathroom just to wash my hands. You know? Whereas like that's not something I would have done before I was an elite athlete. So, and I think some of those habits have like stuck a little bit. Like I think about like, what have I been touching?
Sure.
And do I need to wash my hands
before I eat? Yeah. And so it's always like, it's fascinating anyway. And I can understand why they are very intense about it though. Because imagine if you got sick. Like it's one thing afterwards when they're all partying. I think they're like, whatever, we're all partying now. But before, I think they're like, imagine if you got sick. Imagine if you got this like the day before your massive race.
Like even honestly, like getting the thing that we got,
you'd just be done. Yeah.
Bad enough the day before, like having to record a podcast, like let alone if it's your Olympics, it would be rough. And even now, honestly, like having had that illness, like it's like I got back to, or we all in the house got back to like 80 or 90%, like very quickly, not back to like performance peak, like very quickly. So even when I go running in the morning now, my heart rate's like super elevated.
So it's rough.
Yeah, it is.
It would also be really rough if you're one of the athletes whose races or events are just coming up now. Because now everyone's guards are down. They don't care as much, which I think is now, why a lot of them, right? Like for sure. And so now if you were the one who like breaking finals start like tomorrow or whatever, you were that athlete, I would just be like abandoning the cafeteria.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which would be, it's not as much fun.
That's true.
Yeah, you have to still be like holed up and be like very.
I almost feel like the athlete village should be like where they get to stay after their events instead of before. Like that would be a better situation, a better system. Yeah.
A lot of them, even the ones who aren't staying there, because any athlete can go. And I guess like with 24 hours, they can bring a guest or something. They have to like register them. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them who aren't staying there are going now that they're done, just to like do the whole village thing for a day.
Right.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to note, Kelly, before we move into talking about actual sports. Actually, we do have some actual sports to talk about. Is like I mentioned a little bit yesterday about like the different vibe for the different crowds. Mm-hmm. And like actually then immediately after that we went to watch the diving.
Right.
And holy man, like what a different vibe than the other sports that we've been to. And like I think what I've really seen is that, and of course now it seems logical, but it's something I hadn't thought of going in, is that like obviously these stands are filled like partially by fans of that sport and like the families and friends of the athletes, especially in a small venue like this, like diving, right? So there's like bigger percentage of friends and family in there, right? And if you like when someone got onto the springboard diving board, like if you even so much as like whispered, someone would give you like a death stare. It was like silence in the stadium every time someone, and like even as compared to like a similar sport like trampolining, which I could see there being like, okay, we need silence because they're flipping up in the air in a similar manner, right? But instead in trampolining, there's still just like cheering music and cheering when they hit something well, and like whereas like the dive is just like you could drop a pin. So it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, apparently in the individual gymnastics finals, for the beam, a bunch of people fell, and I guess so a bunch of them have said now it was really weird because it was really, really quiet. They didn't play any music. There was no like sound, and it like freaked a bunch of like they just they're used to there being a lot going on,
right? Because in the trampoline there was music during when they were trampolining.
Yeah. So yeah, a bunch of them fell off the beam, and they said which for whether this is why or not. They were like, it was really weird. It was too quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
I can totally see that, because then you have like the skate park, which is like equally kind of like they're doing tricks that are kind of like they're airborne. They're risky.
Right.
Same like level of airborneness and risk as like a diving board. Right. And yet or maybe more because they're landing on concrete.
Right.
And yet they're like, people are like, whooping and gasping, and it's loud, and there's loud music, and just like a completely different culture and vibe to the whole thing. So I've just found it very interesting that has at the same, in the scheme of things, we're at the same sporting event every day, yet we're like absolutely not. Like we're at a skateboard competition, and then we're at like then we're at the track, and then we're at springboard diving. So
they've all felt very different. It's not felt like one unified. I mean, obviously, same color scheme, same
branding.
Logo.
I was going to say
branding is great. They have nice branding here, but it's felt like very distinct.
Yeah,
things happening in every place.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, after our break, we're going to talk about sports.
If you're like us, you're totally inspired by Katie Ledecky and Summer McIntosh and more ready than ever to up your swim training. So let's take a minute to talk about hair and skincare for swimmers. You've probably asked yourself questions like, how can I keep my hair healthy and hydrated as a swimmer? How can I avoid my skin feeling itchy and dry after being in the pool? And how can I get rid of those pesky goggle marks around my eyes? Enter TryHard. TryHard has pre- and post-swim solutions designed to reduce the absorption of pool and ocean chemicals into your hair and skin. We love using TryHard's pre- and post-swim conditioner before and after every swim to keep our hair feeling great. TryHard also has a bunch of other products useful for swimmers, like their pre- and post-swim eye gel, which totally works for getting rid of those pesky goggle marks and puffy eye feeling, while providing hydration and a cooling effect. TryHard products are vegan, dermatologically tested, and packaged in recycled plastic. Whether you're swimming in the pool, the ocean, or maybe even the Seine, take care of your hair and skin with TryHard. Use the code FEISTYGAMES for 22% off site-wide at tryhard.co. Plus, you'll get an extra 5% off during sales on top of the already discounted price. That's Feisty Games for 22% off at tryhard.co. Historically, athletic footwear has been designed, researched, and tested for men. Brands have relied on the shrink it and pink it approach to sell male shoes to female customers. That's why we are so excited Heddas is working with us on our Paris coverage. Heddas is building high-performance, technical running shoes for women from the ground up. They operate from a purely female perspective, which we love, and their mission is to ensure the female running experience gets the funding, research, and recognition it deserves. Heddas has unlocked the science behind women's biomechanics through dedicated research and creates better shoes for women's performance. Some of Hedda's special features include a lower ankle collar to reduce rubbing on women's ankle bones, a breathable mesh toe box to allow for ventilation and accommodate female toe shape, and a supercritical foam and Pebax plate midsole to keep our legs going when the going gets tough. Heddas has 3 shoe models designed for different sessions: the Alma Cruise for long runs, the Alma Tempo for training days, and the Alma Speed for pushing the pace. Celebrate the outstanding performances at the Olympics with your own pair of Heddas. Use the code FEISTY20 for 20% off at heddas.com. That's FEISTY20 for 20% off at heddas.com.
All right, sports. We're here for the sports.
We are here for the sports, and we went to springboard diving yesterday.
We did. We went to the prelims. And we don't, I don't know how to say this. None of us are diving aficionados. What? Yeah. And so at some point you are like, they're all really good.
It's true.
The Chinese girl was slightly better.
They were all really good. Yeah. There's a lot of forward triple somersault pike.
Right.
3.5.
Right.
Front 3.5 pike.
It was the prelim, so everybody does 5 dives, and then like half of them make it through the semis with a combined score. And so in diving, the judging, they throw out the top and the bottom, judging marks, scores.
Yeah, so the 7 judges, right?
Something like that.
And the top 2 and bottom 2 were just struck out. Yeah.
And then they kind of like combine that and then multiply it by your difficulty score, which is like an objective factorial, like based on what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And that gives you your overall score, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just like, whereas like in trampoline, there was like, this took me a while to figure out in trampoline, but there was like a whole factor of like how much time you spend in the air.
Yes.
And that like, and there's that. And then you have your difficulty and your execution. And then like how far away from the center, how much time you spent outside the center.
So there were like, it was very interesting in trampolining because there were like 2 markers that were just judged by sensors. Right. So like those 2 scores came up first. And then there were 2 that were judged by judges.
Right.
Which is like kind of interesting. And then in diving, you have 1 and 1, like one factor that's like
objective and one that's subjective.
Yeah. And then I thought the other thing I thought was interesting in like skateboarding, and I think this like completely changed the sport. Like in diving, we saw they were doing 5 rounds in the prelims, like you said, right? And it was like cumulative.
Right.
So like all of your 5 dives counted to like whether you move on.
Whereas
and like
skateboarding is just the best one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like so skateboarding, like you could go out there and completely fuck up. And like it's fine because you can still hit it the next time. So it like puts a risk into the sport. Like you can like risk and fail and fall, and like falling was part of it. Whereas like in diving, like there was definitely a little bit more like you want to have 5 clean dives, which is like why we kind of saw, I think, a lot of the athletes are just like trying to perfect certain dives versus like going out there and doing something wild to try to impress, you know?
Yeah, true. And I remember, like, I didn't go to skateboarding with you guys. You guys said in person, but I remember watching it on TV last time around, and it was like, I'm just watching people fall. Like, I was like, I don't understand what's happening.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter how many times you fall. You just have to nail it once, right? So
yeah, from that outside perspective, I could completely see that. Yeah, you can have like 2 terrible runs
Right.
and run one amazing run and win.
Right. That was like weird to watch because you're like,
Yeah.
the guy who won only hit one trick. Yeah.
And trampoline was like kind of a hybrid of those two things because because they had like in the qualifying, like, cause you had the airtime piece and the other piece, like you could see there were people taking risks in their routines, right, to try to get a higher score. But that also there were some like standardized pieces that you just had to hit.
The thing I noticed in trampolining was that there were some athletes who like, so time in air is like a large part of your score. And I don't know if anybody like understands Moneyball, right? There are some athletes who are like moneyballing the system just to like try and spend more time in the air, but they weren't necessarily doing like as difficult or complicated routines, and they were doing quite well. And then I actually appreciated that the athletes ended up winning, or like a couple of them did the opposite. Like they actually did much harder routines by their difficulty score, but spent less time in the air. Which I don't know. I just liked that more.
Yeah.
I just personally was like, it's more exciting.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, we saw that in springboard a little bit. There's just not as much variety. So like when you're, you know, like in springboard, when you're the very little I do know about it, because I did used to watch it as a kid, but like I don't remember all the details of the judging, but like, you know, like how straight your body, obviously we all know that the splash matters.
That's what
everyone knows
on.
That. Yeah. Everyone's like, but then like how straight your body is entering, like you have to come fully out of your pike or tuck, right? And then the other one is like your legs kind of being together. Like these are the things I remember.
These are the things you remember,
right? Okay. So like actually airtime would matter because you saw like there was that one woman, and I forget where she's from, but she executed like a more difficult dive, but she didn't fully come out of it. And so like when she hit the water, she also didn't make a big splash. And so it was kind of confusing why it was like, why did she get like 6.5s instead of 8s? And then I was like, oh yeah, that's when I kind of remembered. Because she didn't. So that would like be related, like your ability to do something, you know, twistier and more difficult and come fully out of it has to do with airtime. Right. So like there's definitely some factor of that. Like she took a risk that didn't pay off, but it's not as clear as in the trampoline where you could see like, oh, she was spinning in the air doing things that I can't fathom.
Right. And I am obviously, I know there's like, I feel like some of our audience will agree with this. I'm very up and down on the judging sports.
Right.
The subjective sports just feel,
I think a lot of people are.
Yeah. It's like, is that person really better?
Yeah.
Or not? Like, how do you know?
Yeah.
And then you have like, of course, then there's also, I don't think there isn't right now, but a lot of Olympics, there's always controversies around like judges. And then it's very easy for it to become slightly corrupted.
Right. And I think that's where, like, I think that's why diving, because
that's why you toss out the top of the bottom.
The top two and the bottom two.
Yeah. And I think you do that in gymnastics. I mean, you did it in everything now. Yeah. But it's also why like gymnastics moves away from the perfect 10 to the more like clean, like now it is for all that it is subjective. It's still fairly objective more than it used to be because it's like, this is this deduction. This is this deduction. This is like, it just is.
Yeah.
Whereas the whole, like, you are an 8 was like very, very arbitrary. But I do still prefer this person jumped the highest, crossed the finish, scored the most goals.
Right. Like, right.
Done.
Right.
And
yeah, I get it. Although like those, like there's something that's like wildly, I don't know what it is, like impressive, I guess, about all of those sports that we just like skateboard, trampoline, diving are all just things that like I can't even do. Like, especially once you get to the platform, like honestly, like what's the best that I've done off the platform is like jump.
Sure.
And it's been like better than most of my friends who are like scared to jump. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like I can run 100 meters.
You are able to?
Yes. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like there's something, a lot of those sports that have judging in them also are like physically just wildly impressive in just doing the thing.
Sure. It's like, I mean, this gets into the whole like, so is ballet. So is Cirque du Soleil, right? Like there was something you were talking about yesterday, one of the crazy gymnastics things. And like, I grew up in theater and I was like, yeah, I've seen like all those people do that. It's theater, right? It's like, it's very crazy.
Yeah.
Does that mean we have to judge it? Do we have to judge art?
Have to? Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. So we could have like but then
I know. So that's why you're like, I don't know. Is it a sport? Is it just impressive? And like a lot of these divers and trampoline gymnasts and gymnasts go and they go and they work for Cirque du Soleil after.
Right.
That's what a lot of like that's what they've even said. So like okay,
yeah,
all right. But then we have on the other end of the spectrum, your Canadian jumped the highest.
Yes,
that is important.
So we got our first Canadian women's medal in pole vaulting in 114 years.
The important thing is, did they have pole vaulting 114
well,
years
this
ago?
is like what's really hard to get my head around. So
Right.
Alicia Newman is
Right.
our bronze medalist name. But like 114 years ago, like this is a story that I want to know.
Right. I was thinking
Like,
about that.
who
You're like
was that
1910?
Canadian woman who went to the
1910 Olympics.
Where there were probably, there weren't that many women there.
I'm like thinking, I was not aware pole vault existed at the 1910 Olympics.
Yeah, I have.
We might need to look this up more. Yeah,
this out. Because also like the day before we had the first Canadian gold in hammer throw
in 100
in 96 years. And again, who was the hammer thrower?
Right.
From 96 years ago. So these are questions.
I was like the 1928 Olympics. I was also like, did that one happen? It was like during the war. Yeah. Anyway, they're like, these are interesting times where we really would like to know what Canada was doing in the 1910s and 20s.
We can we're going to figure this out and get back to everyone. I also, the other learn that I take from that is like Canada's traditionally not been that good at field.
Sure.
Like in the track and field scheme of things, field is not our forte.
Field is not your forte.
We could use like, if there's like someone like a Flava Flav like listening out there
support your field events.
To, like, come and just
I'm sorry, Flavor Flav. Flavor Flav supports winners, okay?
We could be winners if only we had. This is the argument we've made incessantly about women's sport.
I know. So the whole thing about why he got behind the U.S. women's water polo team was because he was like, "What? They've won like every gold medal, and they don't make any money."
So,
yeah.
So maybe not Flava Flav. We need someone who's like rooting for the underdog.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Women's Canadian field.
Side point, water polo, because we were talking about this the other day. So a huge number, like a disproportionate number of the best water polo players in the world come from California colleges, because it's just like, and our college conference went under this year, like the Pac-10.
Oh.
And
really?
Yeah, it's been a mess. And some of them joined the East Coast conferences, but now the question is like, so this used to create this powerhouse of water polo. All the American water polos came from there. A lot of the foreign ones come in to train at like Stanford or Cal or UCLA or USC. What's going to happen now? Are we like not going to have water polo development anymore? Like, it's very, I'm concerned.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing we're going to see play out in LA, right?
Okay. The USOPC is very concerned about what's going on with the NCAA, because it is how a lot of our U.S. and a lot of foreign athletes, but a lot of our U.S. Olympians come up.
See that.
So today we have some more running events.
Okay.
Sport climbing awarded their first medals yesterday. Breaking is starting now. Okay, the poor athletes. They've been like sitting with their masks on in their little room by themselves.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Sport climbing did award its first medals yesterday. So in the first medals ever in speed, because in Tokyo, which was the first time we had climbing in the Olympics.
Yeah, wait.
I was going to say they didn't do, in Tokyo is a combined medal. Yeah. You had to do it was like all the different types of climbing, and then there was a combined medal. And this time they've divided them out into different events.
You had to be good at all of them. Okay, what are the different events of sport climbing?
Right. So I'm going to get this wrong, but there's speed, which is the one everyone gets very excited about because they just go super fast up the 15 high foot wall in like 6 seconds or whatever.
I can picture that.
Right. You've seen that. It's crazy. And so that's what they awarded yesterday. And I believe a Polish girl won. And then there's bouldering, which is kind of the like where there are no ropes. And you have to like do what they have a fancy word for it. We have to like do a line, a certain type of.
I don't know what the fancy word is.
There's a fancy word for it.
Bouldering is.
So they have to bouldering. And then there is lead, where I believe they have to like solve there's a word for it, a trick, a problem. Like they don't see the route beforehand, and they have to like figure it out and climb it.
Interesting.
And it is still the fastest time or whatever, but it's like they have to figure it out as they go. So those are the 3 types.
Okay, cool. So now we're going to see three different
medals
in in sport climbing. Well, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
If only we could get tickets.
I cannot get tickets to sport climbing
on the ticket.
I keep pressing refresh.
App.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, and occasionally one comes up, a single one.
And then you try and click it and it goes away.
Yeah. So yeah, we're still trying, folks, to bring you all the updates.
All the updates.
Sport climbing.
And after this break, we are going to come back with important questions like proposals, yes or no.
And urinals.
Here at Feisty, we are dedicated to partnering with brands that are mission-driven and having an impact. That's why we are thrilled to be supported by Joni, a company creating game-changing period care for everybody. Many conventional menstrual products rely on plastic made from petroleum, a non-renewable resource. Did you know that in the US, approximately 12 billion pads and 7 billion tampons are discarded annually, and these products generate over 200,000 tons of plastic waste per year? It can take 500 to 800 years for a single petroleum-based plastic disposable pad to decompose due to its materials, and tampons with applicators also contribute to plastic waste, which can take centuries to break down. Joni is dedicated to bring the wasteful and antiquated feminine hygiene industry into the 21st century. Using a design-led approach, Joni's personal care products and commercial dispensers provide the most innovative and accessible period and leak care solutions in the world. Organic and free of harmful levels of chemicals or irritating fragrances, Joni's pads and tampons support menstrual health and the environment, while allocating at least 2% of revenues to break the cycle of period poverty, dismantle menstrual stigmas, and empower periods. Now that's what we call 21st century period care. Ditch uninspiring and irritating feminine hygiene products and say hi to Joni's silky soft, super absorbent, and toxin-free pads and tampons. Joni pads feature a wrapper and protective layer made from cornstarch, a plant-based material, making them biodegradable and compostable in the right conditions. Joni tampons are made with organic cotton. They're compostable, including the wrapper, which is made of cellulose. Choosing sustainable period products isn't just a trend, it's a movement. You can get 10% off your order with the code FEISTY at getjoni.com. That's 10% off at GETJONI.com with the code FEISTY.
All right, the important question that everyone's waiting for. Yesterday, Sarah was very excited about urinals.
Very excited. Okay, so someone, I forget who it was, someone on our team.
Right, because I've been out to the track stadium like every day.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh yeah, have you guys seen these female urinals?
And I had not noted the female urinals before and was literally like, what is that? I have to go see this thing.
So we do have a reel coming on Instagram if you want to view.
Show you, because this is a kind of thing that needs to be shown. But yes, so Paris put female urinals near some of like the major locations where there was like a backlog for bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like porta potties. There's this line of like porta potties and then male urinals and then these female urinals. And I thought it was funny. It was like by Madame. It said
P.
Madame P. Mm-hmm. That's right. The urinals are by Madame P.
And it's only funny because they have to because obviously you have an international audience, so they have to draw pictures. So and you have an international audience and a thing that is not 100% common yet. So they have to draw pictures to explain to people how to use it. So it's quite funny because there's a picture of someone squatting, and a picture of poop with an X through it.
Yeah, so you kind of push. It's got saloon doors,
right?
And I think this is one of the advantages of it is that it's more airy. You're not in a plastic box with other people's excrement. You're actually this airy. So you open these saloon doors and you come in and you're meant to squat over this little mini toilet looking thing. And then there's a very clear sign that says you can't poop in it. And then there is toilet paper in there.
But you're supposed to throw it out.
Yeah, and then you throw it out behind you. So
it's just supposed to be fast. I mean, the idea is definitely that we got to keep crowds moving faster. That when you look at logistics of porta potties, which I went deep down a porta potty hole with the Boston Marathon race director one time, and the amount of time he spent thinking about porta potties.
I can imagine.
God.
This is not something you want to go wrong.
Right. So, but one of the things is if you have a higher proportion of women coming to an event, you tend to need more porta potties, and it's just because it's not because we take too long doing our makeup or something, right? It's because they have to take pants unbuckle and come down, and there's more. It takes longer.
Yeah.
So this is just one way possibly to keep those things moving faster and keep lines moving faster. Right. And then if you keep lines moving faster, people don't get frustrated and go and pee in a bush.
Yeah. So like going into this situation, like
Mhm.
going in, because you told me about it, I went there. I really thought the question is like, do we think this is progress or good, or do we like
Yeah.
it as women? Right.
Well, I don't know if I like it. I'm not like, yay.
Right. So I went in thinking, no.
Really?
Like, yeah, thinking kind of like we don't need to do everything the male way. Like just because men have urinals doesn't mean we need urinals. Like our way is
that's
fine. Like
interesting.
maybe men should have toilets.
No,
too,
it's just
right?
supposed to move fast. It's
But
just to move it fast.
Right. But like after then, because then after like shooting our content about the urinal, I also used it. And after using it, I was definitely converted. I was like, that was so fast and easy.
Right.
You don't have to touch as many. You just don't have to
Right. It's just
touch
supposed
things. So like it's so gross in those
Sure.
in those porta potties that like I'm like yes, female urinals.
See, I was like all on board because it's just about moving lines quickly. It's just about crowd management. I mean, they literally spend time thinking about like getting the toilet paper rolls so that people don't have to spend time like finding the end of the toilet, right? Like everything's about just moving things quickly when you're at a crowd, like in a big crowd.
Yeah.
So totally makes sense to me.
I think they nailed it with the female urinal.
There you go. These are important questions.
As is the question of
proposals. All right. There have been a number of proposals at these Olympics, right? Because it's Paris.
Like
and
two athletes. The athletes are being proposed
two athletes,
to.
Right. Athletes. I feel like people just come to Paris and they feel like they have to get proposed to. They're like not even dating anyone. And they're like, would you like to get married?
Why is no one proposing to me, Kelly?
So I've like split because, all right. So there's been some where the athlete then has proposed like their significant other.
Yeah.
And that I think like that's okay because it's like the athlete's choice, right? And it's their show, it's their day.
And I can see there's a little bit of like, thanks for supporting me on this journey.
Right.
Like now my Olympics are done. Like at the next phase, like they're like moving to this next phase of like, okay, let's get married.
And to be totally fair, it's been equal opportunity. Like some of the female athletes have been proposing to their, like the female French steeplechaser after her like fourth place that I was telling you guys about, that most excited fourth place finish I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. She then proposed to her boyfriend in the stands. So that was cute, right? Yeah. But then there's been some of these significant other proposing to the athlete, and I am against this. All right? Stop taking their show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like it's especially bad. I feel like it's especially, okay, so at the Olympic trials in the US, there was one where like the woman had just qualified for the trials and like set some kind of American record. And then like her boyfriend, and clearly they had talked to NBC beforehand too. And her boyfriend like came out and got down on while she's in a fucking swimsuit, like on national TV. This is like her moment. And then there's all the like, this is the real prize. And you're like, no. The Olympics is the real prize. Lots of people get married, guys.
Yeah. That kind of narrative, I think we could do without. I think we could do without for sure. I think for me, like if it was me, I would definitely want to like separate those two celebrations. Right. Like it's like I feel like I would feel like I had a celebration stolen from me. Sure. Like, am I now not celebrating like my Olympics, or am I not celebrating properly my engagement? Like it's a lot. Like it's
just a lot.
Just don't. And also like part of me is like, does the person who's proposing to their partner at their partner's like Olympic finish line understand how much the Olympic Games means to them?
Right.
Like, do they really think that
that this is appropriate?
This is a good moment to celebrate your couplehood? Like,
oh my God.
I don't know. I'm kind of with you, although I also have like this, I have like quite a bit of space for like to each their own.
Sure. So like in all fairness, you remember the proposal that happened at the finish line in Kona to one of the pro women? Mm-hmm. She's a friend of mine. And so like, I know this, she was so excited, right? Like it was like, she was very, very excited. So it's obviously like if people, it's like, you know, if you know the person, if someone did that to me, it'd be like, have we met? Like, what is happening?
Same. Yeah. But if you know your partner's going to love it,
right,
then cool.
Yeah. But the cameras love this shit. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah. And then it's just the narrative, like you said, like, how are we that, especially when we're talking about like a female athlete and the male partner proposing to them. Like, I'm very like sensitive around like, please, like, don't say shit like you just said, like that the marriage is the real prize. Like,
no.
Just no.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we looking forward to still? You are going to weightlifting now. You got tickets to that.
I know. So now I'm excited. I talked Millie and Ella into coming to weightlifting with me.
You talked about them.
So now I'm determined to turn them into like
weightlifters.
Not weightlifters necessarily.
Okay.
But that would be one step too far. Maybe weightlifting fans.
You know what I'm going to do while you guys go to weightlifting? I'm going to go and buy us all our USA gear for our US final.
I'm going to be there in my Canada hat, baby. I can't believe we're out.
Exactly. Well,
I still haven't accepted.
In all fairness, everyone's out except for
I know, but still.
So yeah, we're looking forward to that. We are finally going to Champions Park today. It's been so Champions Park is actually this really cool thing Paris is doing where they are having a free park every day, or free like event every day. That opens at 4, but it's first come first serve. So you have to like get there pretty much at 4, and then they do a DJ and a show, and then all the medal winners from like the previous day come and like celebrate, and some of them do like I gather some of the gymnasts were doing flips, and like the French swimmers yesterday were evidently like parading around in swimsuit, like the male French swimmers in the sun under the Eiffel Tower. Yeah,
that's amazing.
So it's apparently like. Yeah. This may be where everyone's getting COVID. Yeah. Like they're partying hard. It's a big party. So, but it's been hard to get to because you have to get there early and you have to get like.
I feel like I'm going to the Taylor Swift concert again, honestly. Like that's how far in advance we have to go to this thing. But at least there's like a DJ in the lead up. So we have to go ready for the dance party.
Yeah. So we have plans. It is happening.
Okay. We're doing it.
I do think that's cool. I don't think that has happened at another Olympics. I'm not aware. Like there's certainly been public parks and like venues at other Olympics, but they haven't really done it quite like this.
I think the party vibe of this is winning the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Mm-hmm.
But first, you guys are just going to do some Paris stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna hit up all the best Paris thrift stores this afternoon. So I can also give an update on that.
Oh, good. That's really what people wanted to hear about.
That's what they're tuning in for. Yeah.
All right, we have 2 more days left. Stay tuned.